Sports is hard. When you care about something, when you care about anything, it's going to be hard and it's going to hurt and it's going to be painful.
Welcome to the Ready Room. I'm your host, Brittany MacLean Campbell, and today's episode is really special and pretty personal to me. For anyone who was dialed into the New Heights podcast last week to hear Taylor Swift chat about sports, this is my best Jason Kelce intro attempt. Drum roll, please. Our guest has won 9 international medals, 3 at the World Championships, 3 at the Pan American Games, 2 at the Pan Pacific Championships, and most notably, she's an Olympic bronze medalist from the 2016 Rio Games in the 4x100 freestyle relay. Wow, I get why they get out of breath. She is also an NCAA champion and a 2-time NCAA team champion representing the University of Georgia Bulldogs. Go Dogs. In 2014, she won the Elite 89 award for the highest GPA among all women student athletes competing at the NCAA championships for swimming and diving. She has her PhD in clinical psychology and works with high-performance athletes, which you better believe I'm going to be asking her about. Please welcome one of my very best friends, Dr. Chantal Van Landeghem. Shanti, it has been 8 years since you've been in a Ready Room. I just have to ask, are you nervous?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here with you, Britt. We're going to have so much fun. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here today. So I'm excited to catch up with you.
Well, thank you. And I'm so honored to have you here. I have a million things I could talk to you about, and I do want to get to as many of them as I possibly can because I think you have so much insight to provide to our audience. I want to start by just going current because the World Juniors are just starting. World Championships are just in the rear view mirror. You're now a swim fan. You get to kind of watch the sport from another lens. How do you feel about swimming in this country right now?
I'm so excited about it. I think Canada is doing such an incredible job. I really get the sense that we're not just showing up and competing anymore. We are leading the charge. We're dominating. And I think that's a really neat place for us to be. Obviously, Summer McIntosh is a huge part of that conversation. I have people come up to me all the time talking about her who are not really part of the swim world, which I think is really neat. The Canadians men's team is just doing an incredible job. So I feel in a lot of ways like a proud parent, just watching this Canadian team do really incredible things. It's really inspiring.
I love that. I also relate to that proud parent feeling sometimes whenever I see just kind of like highlights or that exact thing when you're somewhere completely swimming removed and somebody mentions a swimming thing to you. You're like, oh my gosh, other people are watching. They care. They're tuned in. It's so special. We're going to talk a lot about kind of for our own experiences. We're going to go back to some of the memories. We're going down memory lane. I can't wait. First, I do want to start with talking about current. Junior Worlds is happening right now, which is great. There are 26 Canadians representing Canada, a team of 11 males, 15 females, all born between 2007 and 2011, which I know we'll get to later, but that makes me feel very old. They're going to be representing, like I said, Team Canada at World Aquatics Championships. They started already early on in the competition still, so you have lots of action to tune into. I wonder, Chantal, if you could give like a really impactful pump-up speech, words of advice to this group heading into what we assume will be, for most of them, their first World Juniors, what would you say?
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited for this group of swimmers. I think Junior Worlds, I don't know if you felt this way, Britt, but it's such an amazing opportunity to get international experience, to race on the world stage. I think no matter what happens, good, bad, in between, it's a learning opportunity. And there's a lot of growth that can be had. And I think that they can really use this as a platform as they continue to grow as athletes and as humans. So I'd say, keep it as a learning opportunity and also just keep it fun. It's such a great honor to wear the maple leaf and to represent your country. Savor the moment, take a pause, really soak it in. It goes by quickly. I know I sound old when I say that, but it really does. So to just take that pause if they can and to really look around, feel that gratitude or that awe or the excitement or the nerves, whatever's coming up for them, but to really go in and find the joy in it as best as they can.
You are always so good at finding the joy. So I am so glad you said that because that is like 99% of it. A happy swimmer is a fast swimmer. We talk about it a lot. I wanted to kind of reflect back on our own experience. 2011 was a special summer for us. And funny enough, some people on this World Junior Championship team were being born in 2011. So apparently it was a special summer for them as well. You made your senior world's debut it was Shanghai. We had so much fun that trip in the 4x100 freestyle relay. And then you won 5 medals at your first junior world championships. I just wanted to ask you, like, when you reflect back on that time, what stands out most to you?
Definitely having you, I think, for the junior worlds and then traveling to senior worlds together. Honestly, it's a core memory for me. Rooming together with you and just going through that experience. I think we were there wasn't a lot of us who had done both. So to have that with you and just the relationships and the friendships that we created along the way. It was a fun summer. It was a whirlwind. We did a whole heck of a lot of traveling and competing, but yeah, it was nice to have you by my side during that.
I love that. And it really was kind of like we had known each other a little bit, but it was such a bonding experience for us. We roomed together throughout the entire thing. As Chantal mentioned, for us, it was the first time we did our senior worlds. And then we went to a training camp, senior worlds, another training camp, and then junior worlds. And so by the end of the summer, it was probably almost 8 weeks where we were quite literally living out of a hotel room. Do you remember what it was like to do the senior worlds, kind of swim under the bright lights? Then we go to junior worlds. Did you feel like there was a little added confidence at the junior meet?
100%. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me for being able to compete at senior worlds first and to get, like you said, that international experience. And you learn, like, how does the ready room work? When do you have to be there? Like, how do they march you out? Like, you learn all these things that I think, yeah, you get to then take to junior worlds with a little bit of that confidence and a little bit of that belief that, okay, I do belong here. You know, we held our own, I think. And so I think it was invaluable, to be honest, to have that experience and just a great opportunity to be able to compete against the big girls in the world and walk away having a little bit of that confidence while knowing there's still kind of a long ways to go and being really motivated, I guess, to keep improving and chasing.
Yeah, and I think one of the best lessons in this sport is that everyone's path is different. I got the chance to speak with Kylie recently, and she was an athlete that really developed in her 20s. And then, we have a Summer McIntosh that went to her first Olympics at only 14. I think there's total ends of the spectrum, no matter what. So you cannot compare yourself to everyone. But we were 2 examples of athletes that really thrived off that junior experience that we got through the programs of our province, through the programs at Swimming Canada. We went to a bunch of training camps. We went to, NACCs when we were only probably 14. We kind of did it all, and we climbed that ladder that eventually led us one day to the Olympic podium. I wanted to know from your words, like, how you feel the importance on that junior development program was for your senior competition and where it took you in your career.
Yeah, I think you're right. Totally, everyone's journey looks different. And for me personally, I think it made the transition to the senior team smoother. And any time you get international experience, especially traveling with, a Canadian junior national team, it's just all data for the bank that you get to draw on in the future. It reduces a little bit of the uncertainty moving forward, a little bit of the nerves, a little bit of the anxiety. So for me, I think it did make that jump to the senior team a little bit easier, a little bit less scary. And then you get to meet some people along the way, which of course is a really cool part of it too.
Yeah, I did want to take a chance to talk with you about the friendships because I'm in my reflection era of my life. And I just even thinking back to my bachelorette party, which was only a little over a year ago, and to know that, my closest friends in my life, I met 80% of them on either that junior worlds trip or a junior Pan Pacs the year before. And to think about, that's half my life ago, more than half my life ago. And I get so excited thinking about this group in Romania that potentially some of them are meeting lifelong friends. I wondered what your thoughts were just reflecting back on that, of how special it is knowing, back then we had no idea that these people would be the core people in our life for this long.
I feel really lucky, to be honest, because like you said, we sort of have like a core group of girls that we met on the junior national team. You guys accepted me and welcomed me into the Ontario squad, and for that, I'll always be grateful. I'm also in my reminiscing era, and so I went and found a little birthday card you made for me This would have been right after Worlds. And so for those of you who don't know, Brittany is just the best at homemade gifts, whether it's cards, pillowcases with her face on them.
You didn't bring one of those, did you?
Yeah. But I saved, I have a lot of it actually. And that's over 10 years ago. And, we're still going strong. So I think you never know what's going to happen, but potentially lifelong friendships.
You're just the best. I could reflect on our friendship forever. I could reflect on those memories forever. But we do have to move on to the next chapter of our life because we're our own book at this point. If you haven't noticed, Chantal and I do things together. And right after that summer, the summer of 2011, when we went from spending probably 8 weeks without a single break from each other, we then took our university recruiting trips where we were trying to decide where we were going to go to school for the next 4, or if you're me, 5 years of your life. And I do want to bring up a little conversation we had together. We did take only one overlapping recruiting trip. So you took individual recruiting trips, I took individual recruiting trips, and there was one school that we overlapped in, which was at the University of Georgia. And I wondered if you can tell our viewers about the phone call you gave to me when you decided on what school you wanted to choose.
Of course. I knew, I think immediately after my last recruiting trip, that University of Georgia was the place for me. I was so nervous because you had already committed. And I really didn't want to step on your toes. And I really kind of wanted to make sure that that was okay with you, that I was going to commit to. And so I had to call you up. I had to let you know what I was thinking, get your thoughts. And of course, I think you screamed and you were so supportive. You were so loud. I don't know what I was worried about in hindsight. Like, of course, you were just, so supportive and really excited for the both of us. So thank you.
No, you always put others above yourself, which is why I wanted you to tell that story because I'm like, this is not about me at all. This is about you and your decision. Do you have any advice for people that are trying to decide on what university to go to? Like, how did you come to that decision?
My answer is very simple. The short answer is that I decided on the University of Georgia because of the people. And the long answer to that is I really felt supported, not only as an athlete there, but as a student, and I think as a human more generally. And I think that's so important to go someplace where you feel supported, not only as an athlete, but as a human outside of sport. And that's what we found at Georgia. I mean, as you know, the people are out of this world. There's not enough good words to describe them. So I'm not even going to try. But you got to go someplace that you feel supported. And what I would say too is, often athletes will sort of just get like a gut feeling or an instinct, and they might not be able to quite verbalize why, or, there might not be a whole lot of logic behind it. But I think, we can really be aware and pay attention to sometimes those gut feelings, just what feels right for you, and, rely on your teammates or your coach or your parents. But at the end of the day, I think you got to make that decision for what's going to be best for you.
And I love that reminder. And I do think that, you can be successful anywhere. I truly believe whether it's the smallest local school around the corner from where you live, or, you're in this massive university that is on the other side of the world from where you live. I do believe that you need trust in the program and you need to feel good about who you're surrounded by. And you can be successful. And I do believe we both kind of really bought into that trust, and we understood that we were surrounded by coaches that wanted to see us excel as humans and not just as swimmers. But I did want to ask you, when you look back on your college days, do you maybe have like a highlight you can provide, or maybe just look back in general about that chapter in your life of what was a highlight for you of competing at school at the university?
I think maybe broadly it was, and I'm sure you feel this way too in a lot of respects, just like the team atmosphere and feeling like you're such a part of a team. I think swimming is so often an individual sport. Obviously, you and I have both been lucky to be on relays, which, is adds sort of that team element. And so when I look back on those 4 years, that's what I remember most, is actually caring about, some of those girls more than I cared about my own races sometimes. And really just, being a team, truly loving that team.
Being a part of something greater than yourself. I want to take a chance just quickly to ask you about academics, because I can rave about you all day long, but you truly are one of the smartest people I've ever met. You had a perfect 4.0 GPA for your entire degree in Georgia. If anybody doesn't know that, that means you literally got an A plus in every class you took across your entire 4 years. How did you do it? How did you balance and prioritize both the classroom and the pool?
One of my biggest pieces of advice for athletes is to create relationships with your teachers and with your professors. I remember on the first day of every class going up to my professors, introducing myself, letting them know I was on the Georgia swim and dive team, and letting them know that I was going to be missing some classes that year. And I think when you are opening up that dialogue kind of right at the beginning and you're letting them know that, you want to make up that work and you want to be creative in how you're going to rewrite exams or get class notes, having the teachers on your side is major key. So befriend your teachers and your professors. In my experience, they love athletes. They know that we work hard. They know that we're dedicated. And so don't tell them the night before a competition that you're going to be missing an exam. Let them know ahead of time. That was huge for me. And then just being creative, just being creative with finding the time. Obviously, there's sacrifices that go along with that. I think all athletes can relate to that. And you just kind of got to find what works best for you in terms of making that time.
I do want to pivot to our Olympic Games experience that we got to kind of go through together as well, which if you're not kind of following our timeline about our fourth year of university, was the Rio 2016 Games. Chantal actually decided to stay in Training Canada the year, redshirted, and made sure she put all her eggs towards that Olympic dream basket. And I was still at the University of Georgia. So arguably this was our most challenging year yet because we had to be separated for the first time ever. But at Rio 2016, you competed and won a bronze medal in the 4x100 freestyle relay, which was the first Olympic medal for a Canadian female in 20 years. First of all, I just want to saying that alone is so amazing because you reflect back on how many strides we've taken since then, which we'll get to. But first, I want to talk about that moment when you won your Olympic medal. Walk me through the emotion.
I don't even know how to put it into words. It was probably to this day one of the best moments of my life. I think we won the bronze medal, but it felt like a gold. That was our goal the whole year, the girls that we swam with and that swam on that relay. So it was just a culmination of so much hard work and just this feeling, I think, of just being really ecstatic with it and being so excited, so proud. I get honestly emotional just thinking about it because it was everything I could have imagined in that moment, I think, for myself.
It was so special. And it was night one of the games too. And I think that really set the tone for okay, this team is coming and they're ready. Now that you have kind of the opportunity to look back, now that, we have the benefit of time, there have been 16 female Olympic medals since that moment. And I mentioned it took 20 years to get there. Reflecting back on it now, how big of a deal do you believe that changing of the guard was in the moment?
From my conversations with coaches at that time and other athletes who were in Rio, I think maybe winning that medal night one might have sparked a little bit of, either belief or motivation, or it got the ball rolling, so to speak. Obviously, everyone there, worked their ass off and swam incredibly. But yeah, I think it was a nice way to start the competition and for all of us Canadians to kind of be okay, yes, we can be here. We can compete for the podium. And to see it blossom now, right? For that to actually be the norm and to be somewhat expected. What a privilege, what an honor to go there. And like I said, not just compete, but lead the charge and break barriers, dominate. It's an amazing kind of era, I think, for Canadian swimming.
Yeah, I think we went from, nice to final, nice to maybe come fourth or fifth, to now medal was right within reach. And we spent the whole 2016 games believing it. And now in the last decade, they've lived it. Reflecting back on your swimming career, I have to ask you, what are you most proud of?
Honestly, I think 2016 bronze medal 100% is up there. I think how I sort of coped with not making the team in 2012 and sort of using that I don't know, just to allow that to make me, I think, a more resilient competitor, a more compassionate human. I think it taught me a lot of lessons. And in a lot of ways, I'm proud of sort of who I became after that and how I let that shape me. So it's interesting, sort of like the high and the low of the career, I think equally meaningful and equally beneficial, sort of funnily enough.
You experienced one of sports' probably purest heartbreaks where you missed qualifying for the Olympics by 1/100th of a second. There is no margin smaller. And I wanted to ask because, you can be a friend and experience the heartbreak through you. You can kind of hear about it, you can read about it, whatever, but you're the only one that knows exactly what you went through. I wondered, how did you process that moment and get to where you are today, or where you ended up in your career, where you're able to see it almost as kind of a positive, not a positive, but maybe something you could look at fondly?
You described it perfectly. It was just heartbreaking and devastating in every sense of those words. It's the first time I've seen my dad cry. My coach, seeing him after the race, I think still gets me emotional. He still gets emotional when we talk about it. So I think the only way to get through something like that is literally that you just have to feel it and get through it. And I think something that I learned was that didn't always have to sugarcoat things or always find the positive. I'm really good at that. I think since 2012, became a little bit more aware and accepting of when I don't feel good all the time and when I'm not always happy and positive, and there doesn't necessarily always have to be a silver lining. I do think in hindsight, like I said, giving myself the time to just feel that and process that did allow me to really learn and grow from it. Um, but yeah, it's that's my simple answer is I think I just simply had to kind of feel the heartbreak and feel the disappointment of that. And eventually that let me learn from it and grow from it and take a lot of good takeaways from it.
And I think that's such important perspective, because the next topic I did want to talk to you about is leaning into mental health. I wondered, because I could go through medical terms that I don't understand for countless minutes, but I would love to hear from your perspective how you describe your job to other people.
Yeah, so I work in private practice. I work as a clinical psychologist on really any type of mental health challenge. So anything from anxiety, depression, eating disorders, trauma, life stress, all things that athletes are not immune to as well. In a specific sport context, though, that might also be, dealing with performance anxiety, or how do you deal with disappointment after a bad race? How do you cope with an injury? So I'm very lucky. I feel very privileged to have people share kind of their most vulnerable parts with me or their stories. And I really try to work with each individual to help them achieve whatever they want out of it.
So, knowing you lived the life of a high performance athlete, I wondered how you approach working with high performance athletes.
I think I try to tailor it a little bit to each specific athlete that I'm working with. So we use what might be called like a client-centered approach, which all that means is I'm trying to meet the client where they're at. And then from there, kind of collaborating with them to figure out what are they wanting out of this time. Are they just wanting a safe space to vent, process, feel? Are we setting some more kind of tangible goals? So I take a stance as best as I can of really being curious about their experience, trying to refrain from any judgment there. And I will often say that they're the expert on them, and I might be the expert on therapy or therapeutic practices. But at the end of the day, it's really a collaborative effort to help them, reach whatever kind of goals they might be thinking about.
I wondered if you've noticed in your work with this like social media age, are people feeling like a different weight to their athletic careers? Or is that even a fair question to ask?
No, it absolutely is a fair question. And I think it's a little bit different for everyone, but I think there's certainly athletes out there where they do feel like that pressure because it's just more salient, right? And people just have access to you. And I think sometimes when people have access to you, it's just easier to feel like people are making judgments or assuming things about you. So yeah, I do think it's a new challenge in today's kind of world and era that we're in with social media being as prominent as it is, I think there's still, can be a lot of benefits as well. But I think athletes, if that is something that impacts their performance, just really kind of being honest about that. And then, using whoever you can in your support team to kind of help come up with a plan for what's going to work for you and how are we going to help you cope with that. Because I do think it's a very real challenge for a lot of people.
Because we're this close of friends, obviously I can't have you as my therapist or else I would. I wanted to ask about your first experience with either a psychologist or a sports psychologist. I wondered where your first experience was.
Yeah, I think I was in high school. So it would have been about 15, 16 or 17, somewhere in that range. And it was through the Canadian Sports Center here in Manitoba. And it was really just to cover sort of all of my bases to see, okay, let me make sure we spend so much time taking care of our physical bodies, right? We ice, we get massages, we do physio, chiro. I'm like, let me make sure I'm taking care of the mental aspect as well. And that was huge. Sports is hard. When you care about something, when you care about anything, it's going to be hard and it's going to hurt and it's going to be painful. And I think one of the benefits for me of having the sports psychologist was just having that sort of third party objective person to be able to go and talk to about things when they inevitably did get tough.
With that, I was wondering on your end, if somebody's listening to this right now, whether they're a parent, an athlete, just stumbled on our video on YouTube, but they don't know where to start, but they're looking for help. What would your advice be?
I would say find someone that you can trust and see if they can help you. Maybe find some help. Help looks really different depending on what you're looking for. You might just be looking to talk to a parent or a teammate or a coach. Maybe you are looking for something a little bit more professional. There's resources out there. I find that it's a lot easier to tackle sort of the endless possibilities if you have someone who can help you out that you trust. So that might be an easy or maybe an easier first step is see if you can recruit someone to kind of help you navigate that process.
When you look in terms of mental health, would you do anything differently when it comes to your swimming career or when you got help or how you got help?
I don't think I would do anything differently per se. If I could go back, what I might tell myself is that it's okay to feel some of those kind of painful emotions. I wish maybe I would have, had someone tell me that a little bit sooner. I think in sport, we're doing really well in terms of breaking the stigma when it comes to talking about mental health. I think when I was growing up, I got a lot of messages about what mental toughness looked like and, what that meant and sort of pushing through pain or suppressing it or avoiding it. And I was pretty good at doing that. And again, I don't necessarily think I would do anything differently, but I do think, it would have been nice to learn some of that a little bit sooner. Got there eventually, which is great. But for all those athletes out there, I think, we've heard the phrase, it's okay to be okay. I think we're getting a little bit closer at really believing that and also kind of like embodying it and living that and sort of figuring out what does that actually mean and look like. But it's something that I personally really, really ascribe to now and wish little version of me would have learned a little bit sooner.
And what inspired you to get into this line of work? Like, what's your why?
I think that breaking the stigma is a big part of why. And to be honest, it's not just athletes. I really think sport is kind of a microcosm of society. I think there's a lot of people out there who struggle with showing like perceived weakness, right? Crying in front of others or saying that they're having a bad day. And I just imagine a world where we talked about mental health the same way we talked about physical health, right? Like I have a cold, I broke a leg, and I had an injury. So I think creating a space where people can feel comfortable and safe and seen is really important to me. And hopefully we'll keep making strides in that direction.
Well, you are doing such an incredible job, literally making this world a better place. So I am so grateful for you and your friendship and all the great things. And I don't know how to naturally pivot from a heavy subject to no cap, but we're going to do it. It's time for our no cap segment. I know you're a fan of shows, so you know exactly what this is, but I'm going to pull a question out of the hat. and you're going to have to give me your most honest answer. Are you ready for it?
So excited. I've been waiting for this.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I wrote these specific to Chantal, by the way, but I promise there were other options in this cap. Okay. But you may love sleep more than anyone else I know. Where is the craziest place you've taken a nap or fallen asleep?
Oh my gosh. I don't have a good answer for this because I'm also the worst sleeper in the world. So
Fair
I'll
enough.
preface this by saying, like, earplugs, eye mask, it has to be silent. It has to be pitch black. You cannot move if you're sleeping in the bed beside me. Although, okay, so I guess my answer would be like on the main sort of the upper level at the Georgia pool, kind of where the divers used to train and like their mats were. I think I found like a little corner and I crawled up there before practice, but I'm shocked I was able to fall asleep because I love sleep, but I'm so picky about it. I'm very protective of it.
Yes, you introduced me to earplugs. I didn't know that people carried them everywhere, and you do. And you, in fact, always make sure you do. I do want to take this chance because we're talking about sleep to share the story of our university days because Chantal had, like I said, she's the smartest person I know, but she is also, when she's outside of the pool, she can be one of the laziest people I know. And when we lived beside each other, or we literally lived in rooms beside each other, right? There would be days where I would come home and in the middle of I was going to say the work day, but I was by far not working. In the middle of the class day, and I'd have like a little window to try to nap. And I'd come home and I would find Chantal in my bed. Okay. Chantal, before I explain what you were doing there, do you want to defend yourself to the audience?
I think this is the real reason why you wanted to bring me on today. No, I have no defense. You had the better bed. You had the better specs. I think you're invested in your performance. There's no defense.
It wasn't at all about performance because you were much better than I. I think it was. So the real reason is I bought a mattress pad at the beginning of the year. My bed was comfier. And for days that she didn't think I was going to have time to come home for a nap, she just without shame, would walk into my room, go to bed, put her earplugs in, her eye mask, whatever she needed. You know what? I'll take it as a big compliment, though, that you felt comfortable enough to sleep in my bed, that it was a safe haven for you, Shanti.
That mattress topper is just game changer. It was a game changer.
It was so good. Do you have an ideal, like when you were swimming, last question on sleep, I promise, but was there an ideal nap length for you? Like between, say you had all the time in the world, like what would your ideal nap length be?
Hour and a half to 2 hours.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking about 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. I was, well, you know me. I'm all about the sleep, clearly. So
I love it. No, but you're particular and you know what works best for you. And with that, it's brought you to where you are today. And I think it's made you who you are. And I love everything about you. So thank you with my entire heart for taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule. You have lives to save, people to change, which, by the way, Chantal also just got engaged. So can we see a little ring? Can we get a little action? Oh, no, it's not on. Okay, Kaylin, it's not at all that she doesn't love you, but congrats to Kaylin and Chantal for their recent engagement. We love you dearly, and I'm so grateful for your time. I'm so grateful for your friendship and the impact you're leaving on the next generation. And with that, that's it for episode today. Thank you so much, Chantal.
thank you for having me. Love you lots.